All right, everyone. This is Dr. Keith Currie, and this is my personal stretching routine. So, what this is about is trying to loosen up the muscles in your low back and in your hips, and also the piriformis muscles in your legs, the calf muscles, and all the muscles that can just really, really get tight. And when they get tight, that can really cause a lot of back pain, hip pain, and sciatica pain. So, what I do is first I begin by laying on my back, and then I bring my knee up towards my chest. And I'll hold that for just a second or two and then release it. And then I bring it back up again. And what's important about this is a lot of people who have pain will sit and not really do a lot because they're hurting. But the reality of it is you need to have motion in those joints and motion in the spine. That's why exercise is so important, is because the exercise will actually keep fresh blood going to the areas, and it will keep a good fluid exchange going so that you get good nutrients to the muscles and to the joints and the organs, the nerves, everything else. And so it's so important to stay moving as much as you possibly can. And so these exercises here, you can see I switched over to my left leg. And so I'm just pumping that, and that loosens up those muscles in the low back and the glutes or the buttocks. And so, I just pump each side 4 or 5 times and just kind of work into it. What I do next is I grab both knees and then pull them towards the chest together. And so I'll just do this a few times, and you can see there that I cross my arms over my legs. You may not be that flexible, or you may be way more flexible than I am. And so I think that's an important point. I am horribly inflexible. My family, my kids, they laugh at me whenever I do these stretches because I'm so stiff, but I think I was just born that way. I've always been stiff my entire life. And so it's important to do what you can do. And so you can see here I put my hands flat on the floor out to my side, and I bring my legs, my knees over to the right, kind of like on a pendulum or a swivel. And whatever side my knees are going to, my head rotates in the opposite direction. I just feel that gives me a better stretch, a deeper stretch in that back whenever I take my head to the opposite side of the direction that my knees are going. It's important to leave your hands flat on the floor. You don't want to have one hand or one side coming off the floor. If your hands happen to come off the floor, then really you should just not take your knees any further in that direction. And so just do the best that you can, keeping your hands flat on the floor, rotating your head to the opposite side of your lower body. I also think it's important to note that you should never push to a point of pain. Just do nice, gentle stretching. Do what you can do. Don't try to push further than your body will allow. Now what I do is I cross my legs, and I bring my right leg over so that my ankle of my right leg is on the outside of my left knee. And what I do is you can see that I pull. So now I'm switching over to the other side, left leg over the right, and I use that left leg as kind of like a lever to help pull the right leg over further so I can get deeper into the stretch. Also note that I am turning my head to the opposite side on this stretch as well, and keeping my hands flat on the floor. So right leg over the left, go deep into the stretch with the head turned to the left. And I just hold that and relax and just do some deep breathing. Now we go right leg to the left, and the head is turned to the right. Once again, hands and arms flat on the floor. I think this is also a good time to talk about using a yoga mat. The yoga mat is pretty important because, it just gives you a little bit of cushion. So this next stretch is more targeting the piriformis muscle in your buttock and hamstring area, going over the hip. And what I do is you can see I grab my knee, my right knee, and pull my knee my right knee towards my left shoulder. There's an upward and a diagonal pull that I'm going for here. And so just I pull it, I hold it for a bit, feel that nice stretch in that right buttock, and in the low back, and in the hip, and then I release it. And then I go over and grab my left one. And you can see a little bit better on this angle. Like I've got my right and my left hand on the knee, but I could just as easily let go with my left hand. Well, looky there, that's what I did. I let go with the left hand because really you want to get that good diagonal pull towards the right shoulder. It's a fantastic stretch. Not so worried about turning my head left or right with this one. Now with this one, bend the left leg, then I cross my right leg over and rest my ankle on the top of my knee, or my thigh, I should say. And then I take my right hand and I push my right knee down inferiorly, okay? And so what that is kind of working that hip like a hinge. And so I just put pressure on that knee, pushing it toward if I were standing, or toward the wall or the candles over there on the piece of furniture. So if you were standing over there, that knee would be going in that direction. You'll see it on this one as well. Cross the left leg over. Now with my left hand, I'm pushing my knee towards the wall. It's a good stretch for just loosening up the hips. I think it's an important point also to talk about the fact that everything is interrelated. You know, if you got a bad hip and you're walking around on a bad hip, then other body parts have to compensate. You might end up hurting your right knee or your right foot, or your right hip could start hurting after time, or maybe your low back. And so that's why it's important to try to focus on all these joints here, is just to really try to loosen everything up because it's all tied together. Now this stretch, yeah, I know, like I told you already, I'm not very flexible, but I'm doing the best I can. Now I can still feel a good stretch with this. And so what I do is I cross my right leg over the left, and then I reach through and grab the other leg and pull everything up towards my chest. And so that targets the hip, the hamstring, the buttocks, pretty much everything. It's a really great stretch if you're able to do it. Now this next one is for the hamstrings. And so you can't see my feet in this video, but what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to reach my feet towards the sky. Now you can see that I'm supporting my legs with my hands and my arms. You know, I'm not just letting the legs go up on their own. I'm giving some support for my back and everything, but I'm reaching those feet towards the sky as much as I can. One little trick that you can do with this one is try to reach your heels toward the sky. Get those toes and bring the toes towards your nose and try to get those heels to just shoot up through the ceiling. And that really, really gives you a great stretch in your hamstrings. Okay, so now what I'm doing is, I call this, there's no real name for it, the parenthesis stretch. So you can see I left my buttocks on the mat, but I walked my upper body over to the right, and then I walked my feet over to the right as well, to kind of like make a comma or a parenthesis. And you see, so my feet are over to the right, my head is over to the right, and then I bring my left hand up and over the top to really get a really great stretch in that left low back. So now you see me walking my feet. I walk my upper body over to the left, my feet over to the left, and then with my right hand, I come up over the top, reaching towards the left. And that really, really opens up that right-sided low back area. Just hold it as long as you want. You can lay there and do some deep breathing. This is called a bridge. And so it's important because this starts working on some core musculature and just helps you start working on those core muscles a little bit to give some support to your back. Once again, only do these stretches if you're able. Some people aren't going to be able to do these. And also, if you're concerned about any routine such as this, you should always consult with your primary care provider and ask them if it's okay if you do these kinds of stretches. So you can see what I'm doing here is I'm bridging up, holding that for a little while, and then going back down. This really does a great job for pumping those discs in your low back. So what I did here is I took my left leg out to the side, rested my leg on the floor, and I took my right leg over, kind of like a pendulum. And my arms, once again, my hands are flat on the floor and my head turns to the right. Right leg going to the left, head turns to the right. I just kind of go down as far as I can, several times, just nice and easy. You really don't want to bounce around on any stretches like this. It's better just to kind of hold it. You can also see what I did here is I turned my foot up towards the ceiling. You can actually feel the stretch going into different parts of your legs when you rotate that foot. So head left, hands on the floor, left leg to the right. It's a really good stretch. Like I said, if you feel like it, you can rotate that foot. There you go. See right there? I just rotated the foot. So then that's going to stretch it just a little bit different. As you can see, I'm being very deliberate with all of these so I don't hurt my back. Now what I did here is I rolled over. This is a yoga stretch. It's called the Cobra. Now be really careful with this. I would definitely advise on that because you definitely want to not aggravate your back. And so for some people, this is no problem. For other people, it could flare them up. So just be very, very careful. Like I said, consult your physician before trying something like this. What I do when I'm doing it, you can see I just hold it for about 30 or 40 seconds. I'm on my elbows. Some people are going to be way more flexible than I am and can get up on their hands, like doing almost like a push-up. But the important part of this Cobra pose is to keep the hips on the floor. You don't want to push up so far with your upper body that the hips come off the floor. You got to keep the hips on the floor. Now this next one, I call the camel or the cat. You'll see I reach that back up as high as I can towards the ceiling, and then here we go the opposite direction. So your stomach, you try to take that stomach down towards the floor. And that is my shirt hanging down. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Now my back's going up towards the ceiling again, as far as I can get it. And now I lower my stomach and arch that low back and take my stomach towards the floor. This is really, really great for pumping those discs in the spine. And like I said, where a lot of people go wrong is they give in to their back pain, which is understandable because it's horrible to have back pain. I've had back pain, severe back pain before, and had to go through my own treatment protocols. And I'm just so grateful for what they did for me. But that's why I really came up with these stretches and put together my own routine, is because I knew that I felt like that I needed to do something to just try to keep everything loose and then also work on natural disc pumping. So you can see here I went back towards the Cobra pose, and I'm holding that for probably another 30 or 40 seconds. Keeping the hips on the floor, really getting a good arch in that low back. I keep that chin up. Now come back in. Do the cat and the camel. Reach that spine up as far as you can. And you can see when I reach the spine towards the ceiling, my head goes down. And when I lower my stomach towards the floor, my head goes up. All right, so this is it. I hope you really, really enjoyed this routine. I hope you make it part of your daily life. And if you like this and if you find value, please like and subscribe. And share it with others.